Hey there, I'm Amy from thecrazycraftlady.com. Today I'm going to share some crafts and DIY tutorials all using packing tape. That's right, just clear old packing tape, Target, Walmart, Dollar Tree, wherever you want to buy it. We're going to make some crafts, we're going to do some image transfers. I'm going to show you how to make distressed paint techniques, all sorts of fun stuff. So keep watching and let's get making. Okay friends, let's make some homemade stickers. So I just started with a piece of parchment paper. You can use freezer paper, wax paper, whatever you got. I just always keep a roll of parchment paper in my craft room. I've actually seen it at Dollar Tree, so I usually buy it there. And I just kind of use some packing tape to tape down all four corners to try to just keep the parchment paper as flat on my work surface as possible. This was towards the end of the roll, so the parchment paper was super wavy and not very smooth. But then we're just going to cover the whole thing in packing tape. So start with one piece of packing tape, smooth it with your smoothing tool, and then continue each and every row. Now, you want the rows of packing tape to overlap the teeny tiniest bit. So you're going to see the top of my head here with my sunglasses because it's summer, so that I can look directly overhead and make sure that each row overlaps just the teeny tiniest bit. And then you're going to continue with however many rows you need to cover the entire sheet of parchment paper. What this is going to do is create a giant sheet of packing tape, like a giant sticky sheet. And then I went back just because the parchment paper got so wavy underneath the packing tape, and I kind of peeled back a piece, a corner of the parchment paper, and I smoothed it down just to get rid of some of those waves. If you're starting with a fresh roll of parchment paper, you're not going to have this problem, right? Live and learn. And then I just went into Canva and I just did some searches for some motivational quotes, stickers. I will make this as a free printable for you guys to use. Feel free to Google printables, stickers, whatever graphics you like. I just wanted to do some motivational things. And then I just printed this out on regular old printer paper, nothing special. And then I just cut them all out. So I really sped this up because you don't need to watch me cut out 9 little graphics there. Just use your craft scissors, cut them out, and then place them right on top of your packing tape. So space them out a little bit, and then you're going to cover each one with packing tape. So you're probably going to need to use 2 cuts of tape and either have the tape marry up right next to each other or overlap them just a tiny bit like we did with the base layer. And then do that for each and every one of your little graphics there. And these are now your stickers. So if you wanted to, you could leave these on the sheet as is until they're ready to use. But that's a little bit bulky and cumbersome. So what I did is I just cut each one out individually. I just cut one out and then I smoothed it down with my smoothing tool. And then I used my scissors again to just cut as close to the edge. Leave, I don't know, a 1/4 of an inch. So we've done this before. My daughter made me stickers to decorate my laptop, and she cut too close to the edge of the printer paper, and over time the stickers fell apart. So you do want to leave a good edge. So I'm going to take my smoothing tool, make sure it's super smooth, and then leave about a 1/4 of an inch all the way around. That way the top layer of packing tape can have a real solid grip on the bottom layer of packing tape, and then your stickers will last longer. And so my motivation here was just, back to school. I'm thinking water bottle stickers, Chromebook stickers, just fun little inspirational quotes. Maybe my daughter can put these on her 42nd Stanley or a Walla water bottle that she's got. But feel free to get creative and make any type of stickers you like. Okay, so this is an image transfer technique that I've been using for years to transfer any type of image you want onto a glass surface. So here I just started out with some vacation photos. Normally when I've done this, I've done smaller images that are smaller than the width of the packing tape, so I kind of challenged myself on this craft. Now I printed this on regular printer paper on a laser jet printer. Inkjet will not work. My home printer is an inkjet, so I took this to like FedEx Kinko's. It was inside of a Walmart, and then you can just print color images. I printed 2 images on one piece of paper just to save myself a few cents on printing. And then you're gonna lay these pieces of packing tape right next to each other. Like I just married the seams right next to each other to get the whole image transferred, or you could overlap them a tiny bit, but then either way you're gonna have a little bit of a seam down the center of your image, no problem. Then I just took my craft scissors and I cut out my image, trimmed off all that excess white paper because we don't need that. And then I just popped that little image, packing tape image, right into a dish of water. I let it sit for a few minutes to let that initial layer of paper kind of soften up. And then you're just gonna take your finger and rub away all the excess paper. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna leave the ink on the packing tape and you're going to brush away all the paper. If you were to print this image on an inkjet printer, you would peel away the ink as well, but for whatever reason with a laser jet printer, it works. Now you want to make sure you don't leave any of the white paper behind because then it'll leave like white cloudy spots in your images when you transfer this over. So just be patient, add water as you go, and gently I rub that first layer of paper off, and then when you get to the more nitty-gritty tiny pieces of paper, take your finger with a little bit of water, brush in a circular motion until all of those little pieces of paper are gone. And so here I'll show you close up. I did a pretty good job. It's not always perfect, but there's a pretty good job. I got almost all of the paper gone. And then you lay that sticky side up to dry so that you can then apply that to your glass. So I just took like an old pickle jar. I cleaned it with some rubbing alcohol to get the printed date off of it and make sure that that surface is super duper clean. This was a salsa jar as well. We're just gonna make 2 little lanterns. So all I did is I keep some craft sand in my craft stash. I poured some sand into each little glass jar. If you don't have upcycle jars to use like mason jars from the craft store, whatever you got. And I wanted to put the sand in first so I knew where to position my little packing tape stickers there. And you smooth them right down. I will say this is a whole lot easier when you do smaller images. The bigger it gets, the more you have to really smooth down the images. You might get a little bubble or two, no big deal. And then once your image is totally smoothed onto your jar there, you can just pop in a little candle and you're in business. Cute little vacation photo lanterns. I think it's super fun that these images were from a beach vacation, so there's sand in the glass jar, and then you can light a little candle and it reminds you of a memory from a beach vacation. Okay, so now we're going to use that same exact technique on a candle. So for this craft, I printed off this little meditation inhale, exhale graphic that I designed in Canva. If you want to download this yourself to make your own little candle craft, I will link to it below. And so I just smoothed my packing tape down over it. You smooth the first piece down, and then I took my second piece and I married up the 2 pieces of packing tape right next to each other, or you can overlap them the teeny tiniest bit. That might be a little easier. Smooth it down with your smoothing tool or a credit card or whatever you got. And then I just cut out my image. I trimmed off all the excess with my craft scissors, easy peasy. And then I just popped that little paper packing tape graphic into some water. I let it sit for a minute or 2. That's going to get that printer paper to soften up. P.S. Make sure that you're using a LaserJet, not an inkjet printer. An inkjet printer will not work. It has to be LaserJet. So maybe go to like FedEx Kinko's to print out your color image if you need to. Then I just start peeling away that paper. I kind of work in two sections. So the first section is you peel off that first easy to peel off layer of the printer paper. And then after that, you got to go in and kind of use a circular motion to get the fine little bits that are left behind. So I'll speed this up considerably so you can see eventually my whole graphic is going to be left behind on my little packing tape thing there, so that I can add this to any surface I want. And in this case, it's going to be a Dollar Tree candle. So here you go. You can see the top half is done, the bottom half is not. But see how clear it is up top? That's what you're aiming for. So set that aside, sticky side up to dry. And then once it's completely dry, that sticky side will be reactivated. It's not going to lose its stick. And so I just smoothed this right onto a little Dollar Tree glass candle. I thought it'd be fun to make a little like meditation candle because the world is a dumpster fire right now. So I don't know. Maybe this will help someone. Inhale, I will focus on today. Exhale, and not worry about tomorrow. And then I just wanted to finish off my little candle with a little twine at the bottom. It seemed a little plain, so that the easiest way would be to embellish it with twine. Just kind of hot glue it all the way around, a couple coils around the bottom of the candle. Just kind of do little teeny tiny dabs of hot glue with your silicone fingertip protector there, all the way around the candle until you have as many rows of twine as make you happy. You could do twine at the top as well. You could do any sort of other embellishments that you like, or you can skip this step. But I think this is such a great craft to embellish a super cheap Dollar Tree glass candle. You could print seasonal images for holidays and make holiday candles. The sky is the limit with this technique. So for this craft, I just started with some cardstock and some packing tape and some flowers that my daughter picked for me, and then she just pressed them between two paper towels with an iron. This is the first time that she had pressed flowers before, and I think we probably should have pressed them for a little bit longer because the color definitely faded later on, but live and learn. Anyway, just then measure out like a 8-inch piece of packing tape, sticky side up, and then I just positioned those flowers right onto the packing tape. So we're going to kind of like laminate these only with packing tape. And then you just take another piece of packing tape and smooth it right over. You can smooth it down with your smoothing tool or a credit card and try to get all the air bubbles out. And then I just trimmed off the tail ends there so that there was no sticky pieces sticking out. And then I just grabbed my colored cardstock. I used purple, green, and brown to make 3 different bookmarks, but then I just trimmed the cardstock down to size. All 3 of my bookmarks were different sizes. The widths ranged from like 2 to 2.5 inches, and the height ranged from between 6 and 7 inches, or as the middle schoolers these days are saying, 6'7", 6'7". I don't get it. It's a meme. I'm too old for this. Anyway, then I just took my 2 pieces of cardstock and I used a piece of double-sided tape to stick them together. This way they don't move around while you're trying to cut the hole in the center to make a window for your bookmark here. And so I just took a ruler and I eyeballed it, kind of centered a rectangular window that, would match the packing tape pressed flowers that I had there. And I just penciled it out first, and then I took my pen blade on my cutting mat there and my ruler, and I just cut through both layers of that cardstock. So it does take a fair amount of pressure. You may have to do a couple passes with your pen blade or your craft knife, whatever you're using there. And then just be careful to make the corners, you don't want to overshoot the corners, right? So that you have clean corners. And then you can just pop that center rectangle right out. And then you have your 2 cardstock frames there. And you'll see my second cardstock piece, my cuts didn't go all the way through, so I had to score again over them, no big deal. And then you just want to assemble your little sandwich. So you're going to use double-sided tape to secure your little packing tape pressed flower to the first piece of cardstock, and then you're going to use more double-sided tape to cover around all 4 edges of your little cardstock frame there. And then once all of that double-sided tape is in place, you can then add the second piece of cardstock. So here's your little sandwich. And then we need to add a tassel. So I just punched a hole. You have to kind of go at it from both sides because you're punching through not only 2 layers of cardstock, but probably some packing tape in there as well. So just punch a hole in the top of all 3 bookmarks. And then I simply added a little bit of twine. I was out, or I could not find my regular twine, so this is just twine with a little bit of gold floss in it. Cut like a, 10-inch length of twine, whatever you like, fold it over, and then loop it through that little hole punch in the top of the bookmark. And you have a cute little tassel. You could use ribbon, yarn, whatever you like. And then I waited probably like a week before I photographed these, so you can see the color on the flowers definitely faded, but I still absolutely love these bookmarks. In fact, my daughter already stole them. Okie doke, so for this craft, we are going to start, of course, with a Dollar Tree bamboo cutting board. This is the new larger size, which is kind of fun. And we're going to stain the whole thing with this Americana gel stains. You could do like a brown paint. The idea is we're just going to start layering here. So just go back and forth in this like the same direction until the whole thing is covered. And then let that dry. And then grab a piece of a candle. This is just a taper candle from Dollar Tree. And you're going to rub it all over. Then you're going to grab, this is just like a green chalk paint. Truly play around with this. Use whatever colors you like. And we're going to paint that over the entire surface. Here I debated on how much wax I wanted to do, but then I was like wiping off all the excess here. And then, yeah, so you don't want to have like chunks. I guess you could, it wouldn't matter because this is going to be a distressed finish anyway. But then paint all of that green paint on. And remember to paint around the edges as well. And you could paint the back of the project if you want it finished. And then, you know the drill, once again, more wax. Try to do it like in other places. And then also around the edges as well. And then I came in finally with a coat of like this cream chalk paint. I think it's parchment. I'm not entirely certain. It doesn't matter, just any type of cream. And then paint that whole surface as well. It doesn't have to be like exact perfect coverage because we're doing a distressed finish anyway. But then let that completely dry and then come in with some clear packing tape. And I'm just going to do like one little sample to see. I was impatient. I should have just covered the whole thing. But I wanted to see a little sample, and then you smooth it down really good and peel it away, and you get this like distressed chippy finish. And so then I just went back and added more rows of that tape. You really want to smooth it down really well with your smoothing tool. I think if I did this again, I would cover the whole surface with packing tape first, like 4 rows, smooth it down really well, and then peel them all off at the same time, because I feel like that would be some like oddly satisfying ASMR something. But anyway, if you're not happy, like if you're like, oh, I want even more distressed, you could probably go back with the like I just did the packing tape again, smoothed it down really well, and then peeled it back, and it did peel off like a little bit more paint. But then here's an up close look at the finish. How fun is that? And then I just decided to quickly turn this into like a little kitchen sign. So I cut out with like on dark green vinyl, this little phrase off Cricut Design Space. And then I just used my transfer tape to then apply it right onto this little kitchen sign. And then I was like a little bit concerned that the vinyl wasn't gonna stick long term. So I ended up going back and adding a coat of matte Mod Podge over the whole thing just to seal it. Also, if this is gonna be in a kitchen, if it's getting splashed, you know, whatever, just to protect it. But there you have it. You could use this finish on literally anything. Signs, picture frames, you name it, get creative. So I started with this little wooden Dollar Tree house cutout thing, and I decided not to stain it this time. I left it unfinished, and then I did quite a bit of wax. When I did my kitchen sign that I'll link to, I did maybe less wax, and here I got definitely more aggressive. Such a fun technique to play around with. And then I came in with this purple color chalk paint, which I don't think I would normally use, but if we're using it as the base coat that's going to show underneath, I think I'm okay with it. And so I just painted a quick layer of that paint and I let it completely dry. And then I came back with my little Dollar Tree piece of, it's like a taper candle that broke in half. And I like really aggressively like applied wax, even around to the edges. And then I had this beautiful like light blue chalk paint, and I painted that whole thing as well, front surface and around the edges. You could also do the back if you want it to look nice. And then I let that completely dry, and then I came in with my packing tape, and you want to smooth it down really well, so use that smoothing tool or credit card or whatever you got. And then as you peel away that tape, look what a neat distressed finish that is. I like absolutely adore it. And I also did tape on the sides so that the edges would be distressed. And then I just took a mini clothespin and some E6000 glue, and I glued that clothespin kind of towards the top of the point of the house shape there. And this is going to be, you could put a magnet on the back of this and stick it on your fridge, but it's just going to be like a little notepad holder. How fun. So I have made washi tape before using double-sided tape, but this time I wanted to try to challenge myself to make it with packing tape. So let's see how this goes. I just cut a strip of parchment paper that was a little bit wider than my packing tape, and then I taped down both ends to my work surface, and then I just smoothed a piece of packing tape right onto that parchment paper. It's a little tricky because the packing tape doesn't stick super well to the parchment paper, which is good and bad. It's good because then you can peel it off to use it, but it's bad because securing the ends of the parchment paper is a little tricky. But then I just covered the entire surface of my packing tape with plain Mod Podge. This is just matte Mod Podge. That's what I use most often. And then I grabbed a decorative napkin, and you want to peel apart all the ply. So this was a 3-ply napkin, so you just want the top layer. And so I just cut it down to size and then smoothed it right over that Mod Podge. And you can just kind of press it down with your fingers. Yeah, some of the Mod Podge is going to kind of soak through the napkin, no big deal. You just want to smooth it as best you can and then go over it with another coat of Mod Podge. You don't wait for it to dry, for the base coat to dry. You just go right over with another coat and then you completely let that dry. And then here I'm going to repeat the process just with a floral napkin. I will say the floral napkin's more forgiving. Like when you do the buffalo check pattern, you have to line it up perfectly with the edges of the tape. Otherwise, when you trim it down to size, you'll see it's a little off kilter. So the floral is a little bit more forgiving, but use whatever you want. And then once that is all dried, just trim off all the excess. So you're going to trim right up against the edge of the packing tape. It's a little tricky to see, so if you hold it up at different angles at the light, it's easy to see that edge of the packing tape. And so the packing tape is obviously a little bit wide, so I ended up just cutting mine right into thirds. I just kind of eyeballed it. And so the parchment paper underneath is the backer of your tape. So when you're ready to use your tape, then you can just peel that parchment paper right off and use your tape however you like. So I just kind of rolled mine. Mine tended to roll with the pattern inside, so I just rolled them up and secured them with a paper clip. And then I was on a roll, so I just kept going. So this time I decided I wanted to try paint. So I did the same thing, a strip of parchment paper, I smoothed some packing tape right onto it, and then I did a layer of Mod Podge, and this does kind of bead up, but when it dries, it's fine. Just trust the process, mine worked out. So just a layer of matte Mod Podge, let it dry, and then I came in with like this floral stencil and a pouncer brush and just some plain old like chalk paint, acrylic craft paint, apple barrel, cheapest paint you can find is totally fine too. I just tend to stick to the folk art matte paint and chalk paints in my crafting. But just you're going to stencil on that floral pattern or whatever pattern you like, let that completely dry, and then you're going to seal it with another coat of Mod Podge. And I was kind of shocked that the Mod Podge worked this well on this plastic tape, but it really did work out. So then once the top coat of Mod Podge had dried, I then trimmed the little piece of packing tape into thirds, just like I did the ones with the napkins. And I had this little decorative floral stencil decorative tape, which I think is super cute, and it worked out. So I took a chance. So here's my little zoomed in. You can see the pattern of the floral stencil there. I think it's really cute. So use your washi tape on anything you like, stationery, planners, envelopes to seal them, any crafts you like. I think this is a great budget-friendly way to make your own decorative tape. Hey, if you enjoyed watching these crafts, give one of these videos a watch. Thanks so much.